Hey folks, welcome back to the Podcast Digest. This is Dan Lizette. Thanks again for tuning in and checking out another brand new episode of the Podcast Digest. Can you believe it, folks? This is 2 in a row. Episode 151 this week. As you guys have already seen by the title, Letson from Reveal and Errthang. Season 2 is my returning guest. It's been over 2 years since I've talked with Al last, and we had a lot to catch up on. And I think it's going to be a great conversation, and I think you guys are going to absolutely love it. But before then, just want to remind you guys, today's podcast is brought to you by Podbean, podcast hosting and monetization. It's the easiest way to start podcasting. If you go to podbean.com/TPD, you'll get more info, and you'll get your first month for free. So, folks, as I mentioned, I've got Al Letson on the show. Al is simply one of the nicest guys in podcasting, one of the smartest guys in podcasting. I had Al back when I was a huge fan of Reveal early. I think it was episode 81. Back in the end of February 2016, we last spoke. And a lot's been going on. A lot's been going on with Al, with Reveal, in the world, in podcasting. And so we had a lot of ground to cover. And it was great catching up with the guy. I mentioned it just briefly at the end. Al is so cool that not only is he somebody that I get to listen to in my ears, at least once a week for the last several years, but I actually had the good fortune to meet him in person at Podcast Movement 2016. And he couldn't have been more approachable, more down to earth, more exactly like you would anticipate him being. So it's pretty awesome that he is that type of grounded guy. He is everything that you think he may be. He is that and more. So it was great to stumble into the opportunity to talk to him again for this second phase of the Podcast Digest. So this is going to function as my April episode. I think I mentioned last time my goal is monthly episodes. So don't look for anything from me until May. It doesn't mean that I won't have something sooner. That is a possibility for sure. But right now, I'm trying to ease back into this thing and just trying to commit to a monthly show. So my last one was only a couple of weeks back. That'll be March, and this will be April's episode with Al Letson. So if you are not doing so already and you're just now hopping over to the show, follow the show at Pod Digest, Twitter and Facebook, folks, especially Twitter. It's where I'm the most active and not wildly active, so I won't be filling up your timeline too much. Or check out the website, bookmark it, thepodcastdigest.com. You can check out all the past episodes there. Subscribe, please, share, tell a friend, all that fun stuff. So without further ado, I don't want to hold us up any further. Let's go ahead and jump into this week's episode and this week's conversation with the one and only Al Letson. All right, let's get into this, folks. As I mentioned up front, my returning guest this week, Al Letson from about 1,000 different things that we're going to talk about. Al, welcome back to the Podcast Digest.
Hey, thank you. Good to be here, Dan.
Great to have you back. And in preparation for today's conversation, Al, I went back and kind of skipped through and listened to some of the highlights of our previous conversation, which, folks, was episode 81 back in March of 2016. And I wanted to just right up front cover the most important thing since the last time we talked, because it really seemed like a big problem, and I want to make sure we got this straight. So at the end of that conversation, I just want to know, did you get the Squarespace Media Temple website thing all worked out?
No.
Are you paying the wrong people still, Al?
I've figured out who to pay, and I've even paid someone to design my site. And I've been so busy that I haven't finished it yet. So in one stage, yes, I have figured out some things, but the most important things, my dumb ass has yet to figure out.
Oh, wonderful! That just seems fitting in some ways. Because we were talking about how busy you were last time and you hadn't even paid the right guy.
Right. I mean, you can always point to me being a dumbass at some point. So, that's what it is.
Well, we've reconnected today, Al, because, of course, season 2 of Errthang is finally here. And I want to spend the bulk of our time talking about that, and we will. But before we jump into that, there's obviously been a ton of stuff that's gone on since we last spoke. But let's start with what really hasn't. You're still doing Reveal, and it's still awesome, yes?
I am still doing Reveal, still working with an amazing group of people that every week make me look good. Yeah, and I still love it. I still love the show. Still love all the people I work with. It's not an easy program to make, but it's still at the point where it's a lot of fun.
And it seems to me that the recognition and the reverence for the work has only gotten more important in, let's say, today's political climate, to be nice. The work seems to have gained even more importance now, and even more of an attention has been put on the work you guys are doing. Would you agree?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, to be honest, like I don't really think much about. I do think about how the work is. I do care like that the work is getting out there and that like people are enjoying it. I don't really think much about kind of the prominence of the show or anything like that. I'm just trying to make a good program.
I think that's a checkbox you can definitely check off. I know that in the podcast listening aficionados worlds I swim in, there is so much love for the work that the whole group does over there, and it's an absolute must listen for me. Still to this day, was 2 years ago when we spoke, still remains to this day, and I'm a huge fan of the work you guys are doing. That's for sure.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate it because you do a lot of this work in a dark room and hope that people get it.
Hope that it's landing. Hope that it
right.
Is having its impact. Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, Revealed to me is it sits up there in the pantheon, of some of the top shows in a podcasting queue. I know it's also produced for radio as well, but it's an absolute must listen. And I think I fear that eventually someday it's going to come to an end, and I hope that it doesn't. I hope that if you decide to move on for whatever reason, Al, it's like a seat at 60 Minutes or something. You can hand it off to somebody else to pick up your baton, because I think that work just needs to keep going and going.
Feel free to tell 60 Minutes I said hey.
Yeah, Anderson's getting all those big interviews. Anderson and Oprah on there a few weeks back.
So. Everybody but me, damn it.
Yeah, not yet. Your time's coming. Right. I know it. I mean, it's got to be coming, because look at what you're doing with season 2 of Errthang.
There we go. Nice segue, sir. Nice segue.
I've learned something from you, Al.
Oh well.
First, before we get in there, let's start at the beginning here. What everybody's asking, man, what in the hell took so long?
Oh God, man! So what took so long is like I moved officially to California. I got custody of my kids. Just a lot of like personal life stuff going on that made it really hard for me to concentrate on getting the show done. And then Reveal is a very it takes a lot of work. It's a whole lot of work. And so I think a lot of the mind state of getting Errthang together, it just takes a while to like get the mental space to actually do it. So, but it's here and I'm happy. And what I've learned about Errthang, like this season is pretty personal. Like I last night as I was working on, I was finishing up some work on episode 4, and I just thought, wow, like this whole season is weirdly like a memoir. That I didn't plan it to be that way, but that's kind of how it's all kind of coming out. And so I think, like, if that's the type of work that I'm doing, that it makes sense that it takes a little while to come out, because you got to live a little in between all that.
Yeah, that's for sure. And so I'm. In terms of the lag time, I think sort of folks will hear an allusion to the reasoning kind of right up there at the beginning of episode 1, right, where Willie kind of outs you on the heartbreak section there.
Absolutely. That was like one of the more uncomfortable moments of it.
Yeah, which let's get into it too, because I absolutely love Willie. It was funny because, I started conversations a couple of weeks back, trying to get in touch with you and what have you. And I was thinking, if Al's schedule doesn't allow, I'm going to reach out to Willie. I was like, because I want to talk with him too, because this guy is just spectacular. Somebody who hasn't heard Errthang, tell a little bit about your co-host on Errthang.
My psychic slash co-host, is one of my oldest friends. Willie and I have been friends since probably maybe we were 16 or 17 years old, and both of us are in our 40s now. So very long-term friendship. He is a hip hop producer slash rapper in the underground hip hop scene. He's a very well-known figure, and yeah, I love him. And he, it's funny because in the show, he tends to kind of be the straight guy who laughs a little bit. Um, but actually, in life, like I would say, I'm way more the straight guy, and he's the funny one. But yeah, no, we have a great relationship. It's the reason why I asked him to do the podcast with me because I knew that like him and I would have a good time together. Worst case scenario, we would laugh a lot. Worst case scenario, it would just be me and him in the corner chuckling. So.
It makes me think, like, I'd love to see something sitting in between Reveal and Errthang. And what I mean by that is kind of like topical discussions between you and Willie, just for like, a 45 to 60-minute episode, just talking about it, whereas, no writing, no production, no nothing, just like a conversation like this between you two. I'd eat that up every week.
Him and I have played around with these ideas of doing stuff like that in between the big seasons, and maybe we will. Right now, we're so deep. So this run of Errthang is like 8 episodes, and it's there are 8 really ambitious episodes.
Mm-hmm.
They're ambitious episodes, and also like maybe 2 days ago, I called an audible and told the team, which the Errthang team is me, Willie, and Bree Burge, who is our production manager, business manager. Just all around, make sure we get stuff. I called them kind of out of the blue and said, guys, I want to completely change episode 4. Like, I want to throw away everything that we did. We can save it for next season, but this season we have to do this story. And they're like, okay. So yeah, it's a demanding show. So maybe after we get through these 8 episodes, we'll start thinking about what comes next.
Yeah, I could get sidetracked by that a little bit there because are you guys one of the ones I thought I read somewhere? No, you guys did not do the bulk and advance release somewhere, like with a Stitcher Premium type thing. No, okay.
No, not. I would like to, but then work gets busy, and so no.
Yeah, no, I think what it is, I'm looking at PRX's Medium post where it described all 8 episodes, and I assumed it was a bulk release somewhere. But no, you're right, I don't see that listed. So that was just kind of the schedule, right?
Yeah, that's the schedule and the ideas that I was, what I wanted to work on. I mean, the thing is that like out of the 8 episodes we're doing, besides the completely new thing that we're going to do for episode 4, I believe. Yeah. And episode 8, which like episode 8, I'm waiting to really get to work on because I want it to be extremely like of the moment. But all the other episodes are like in different stages of production. Like most of them are like 75% done. So it's kind of yeah. So, but when I get these big ideas, which the great thing about Errthang is that we can be agile enough when I do have these crazy ideas that we can change it up. So that's what we're kind of looking into now.
Well, when folks are listening to this right now, they should be able to hear episode 1 and 2. I saw 2 just drop this morning, and I started to listen to it right before we came on. I got about halfway through. But episode 1, and you said the word ambitious, too, and that was one thing I wanted to mention is the production value on this, the preview, which I also want to mention, but episode 1 is through the roof. How does something like episode 1, just using that as a talking point, how does that come together? It just sounds like 100 hours.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's part of the thing with Errthang is that so at Reveal, my role here is to be a host and to do interviews, and I love doing all of that. But with Errthang, my job is to kind of do everything. And so, I spend a hell of a lot of time with the production and tinkering with things and playing with ideas, and we will like do a run of, do like a outline of it. We'll then I'll start to produce it, then Willie will start to score it. So yeah, it is a lot to produce. But that's exactly what I wanted to do with this podcast. I didn't want to make a podcast that didn't have the heavy production elements because it's fun to me. I love like stretching that muscle, and I don't really get to do that a lot at Reveal. The other thing is that like if I tried to do it at Reveal, it would just slow the pace of the type of work that we've got to get done here. Like so with Errthang, like I could take episode 1 probably took me like 2 or 3 months just tinkering and playing with. Reveal does not have the time for me to like do my artisanal mixing and cutting. Like we just can't. So I just have a good time with it.
So what folks are hearing is a result of a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of effort. But in the you and Willie parts in the conversation, it sounds unscripted. Now, I'm sure there are points that are, but can you tell folks kind of behind the scenes, like how much of that is scripted, how much of that is not? Is it just banter? Because it comes off that way, which I think is probably intended.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, way back in the beginning of my radio career, this is going on like 10, 11 years ago, I was fortunate enough to be able to sit in with Radio Lab for a week. And so Jad and Robert and at the time the EP of the show, Ellen Horn, they let me come in and watch how they do it. And those guys are brilliant. They will like script stuff out and then they'll keep doing it until it finally hits this natural stride. And Willie and I kind of do the same thing. We have an outline, we script, we'll do like a couple runs with the script and then we'll put the scripts down and just do it. And leave plenty of room for, like Willie knows that he can freestyle at any time. I freestyle at any time. We throw stuff to each other and just see what happens. So a lot of times when you hear Willie laughing, like every time that Willie laughs, and Willie's laugh is like maybe my favorite thing in every episode. Like I love because he just laughs like a kid, like so wholeheartedly, right? Every time he laughs, like that's totally not scripted. Like he's in the first episode when he starts clowning me over my third heartbreak, which I'm not gonna say who it is, but my third heartbreak in the first episode. It's a genuine laugh, like he just didn't see it coming. And I love that.
I was
stuff.
thinking,
so it's a mix.
I was thinking all along, and I won't give it away early either, but I was thinking that there would be a guest appearance in that episode based on that third one. I thought for sure we were going to drop in a little conversation at some point. I thought it was like you did at the end of that episode. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I would have liked to do that. I just I didn't have the cojones to ask.
I was going to say, I bet you tried, but you didn't even ask.
No, because I love her. It's like the girl in high school that you love and you never say anything to. No, I didn't have the courage.
Wow.
If she rejected me, then like my whole life would be rejected.
You'd have to have a long look in the mirror about what to do with your life now.
Right. Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
That episode, I'll tell you, episode 1. Maybe one of the funniest things I've heard on a podcast in a very long time. And this isn't even technically a comedy podcast, right? I mean, I guess maybe that could be a descriptor to a degree, but certainly not a focus. But man, was it funny. Your second story there, we'll just say with the ants, man, dude, I was losing it out loud. You put that together so well, that story, and it's just brilliant. Great listen, folks. If you haven't started Errthang, now's the time to hop on the bandwagon because it is just so funny.
Thank you, man. Like I'm glad that you could laugh at my pain. I thought we were friends, Dan. Come on.
I like how you've turned your pain into entertainment.
Yeah, it was. It was a good one.
Yeah, I loved it, and it's got me hooked. And I think my only problem with Errthang is going to be 8 episodes. It's like, I wish it was continuous. I wish it could be like an every whatever amount of time thing. But I understand anyone who listens to it realizes how much time this has got to take to put each one of these together. But
yeah.
Let's twist to another topic here. Radiotopia Showcase. As far as I know, you haven't been involved with Radiotopia previously. You have done stuff with PRX before, though, yes?
Yeah, PRX. So PRX is for lack of better term, I think of PRX as my radio parent. Like I came into public radio through PRX. So all the people that work there, they're like family to me. And yeah, I mean, and when it comes to Radiotopia, Julie Shapiro, who runs it now, is a really dear and sweet friend. So yeah, like working with them just felt like a natural extension. And PRX is the co-owner of Reveal. PRX was my distributor for my first show, State of the Reunion. So yeah, it just made sense. Like I thought about, well, Dan, just to be really honest with you, like with this season of Errthang, I wasn't even thinking about working with anybody. I just, wanted to put these stories out.
Well,
And
yeah,
then
because that's what you did with season one, right? That was just
right,
you and
right.
Willie, season one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was just us, and that was my game plan. Because, like, honestly, like, I want a lot of people to hear it, but I'm not trying to. I think a lot of podcasts, the goal there is to become like a weekly show or a monthly show and make enough money to support the people that make the program. And that's really not why I'm doing Errthang. Like I do Errthang because I love it and I've got stories to tell and I love this medium. But we're not making any money off of this at all. So I just wasn't thinking about it. I just figured I was just going to do my art. And I asked some friends of mine to like listen to an early draft of the first episode, and Julie was one of them. And Julie said, "Dude, we've got like this showcase thing. You guys would be a great fit." And so I said, "Yeah," and here we are. But it was never like this isn't something that like I've been thinking like, "Oh, I need a distributor." Like it, I'm glad it worked out, but it hasn't been my drive.
Maybe still early in the process to ask about this, but somebody out here who has fallen in love with the show and loves Radiotopia is probably, one of the likely ways they've come through, are going to wonder, is it too early to start thinking about a potential semi-regular Radiotopia home for Errthang, kind of out of the showcase box and more into the regular roster?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, like I said, I think that what happens with Errthang is it's a really personal show. And so being that it's really personal, like a lot of times, it takes time to get material, to put it together and also the level of production. I mean, for it to become like a regular show on Radiotopia, I would have to hire at least two producers, to work on it. Because it's a heavy lift. Like right now, sort of the idea with episode 4, I'll give you a little bit of exclusive because like I haven't even fully talked to the Utopia people about this yet. I mean, Julie knows that I'm changing it, but I haven't given her much information. So initially, episode 4 was going to be this story about music, and Willie and I had started working on a different type of episode where actually both of us would tell small stories back to back to back. And so like it would almost be like a long conversation with tape brought in, and about music that like really meant something to us. And so, and we've got the basics of it still, so you'll probably hear it in season 3 or somewhere. But then I realized that so about 2 years ago, I started working on this nonfiction book, and the book was about rape culture. And I really wanted to understand what rape culture was. And so I just started going out interviewing women all across the country from different socio-ethnic backgrounds and economic status, like what their take on rape culture was. And in the book, like I was talking to them, but also like having little memoir parts about how I have been a part of, or tried to fight rape culture like in my lifetime. Mostly like it was kind of, instead of like, pointing fingers at somebody for doing something, it was like really looking in the mirror and saying like, what have I done around this stuff? And, but I stopped working on it because when the Me Too movement started, I felt like it was time for me to really shut up and listen. And so, like, I've got all this stuff for this book that maybe one day might come out, maybe not. And I realized that, like, in this moment, like, some of the memoir parts in there would make really good radio. And so I just decided, like, screw it, let's just make radio. Let's do it. Or audio or podcast or however you think. When I say radio, I'm
Right.
taking podcast out. I just totally switched gears, and I'm doing this memoir that, but we've decided that because like it's a hard topic, that there's not going to be like the production value is going to be very different. Like what I really want people to concentrate on is not um, all the things I put around the words and the higher production value, but really just concentrate on the words and the story that I'm giving. Um,
Right.
so that'll be different in the whole span of stuff because A, like it takes a serious turn, but B, it's sort of like a stripped down version so that we can really get to the meat of it.
Yeah, that'll be different than what was regularly slated.
Yeah,
That's for
absolutely,
sure.
absolutely.
Hey, folks, let me jump in and interrupt this conversation just for a quick moment to tell you about this week's show's sponsor. It is my returning friends at Podbean. You guys know Podbean. You've been listening to the podcast digest long enough now. You've heard of Podbean, and they are awesome. If you're sitting there right now thinking about starting a podcast, one, do it. You're going to love it. All right. Second, take a real hard look at Podbean. Podbean is easily the easiest way to start podcasting, all right? They have so many great features that you should really look at when you're starting a show. Your full-blown RSS and iTunes support, okay? If you've already got a website and a show, they can redirect it, all right? Migrate the show over, no problem. Popular apps on both Android and iOS. You're going to have the online directory that they could potentially promote your show on. Comprehensive statistics as well. Great website that you can customize with different themes and colors. They've got all kinds of the social network sharing that you need and want to spread the word about your show at Twitter, Facebook, etc. And with embeddable players, quality embeddable players, so it shows right up there on Twitter and on Facebook as well. And they've even got a whole bunch of monetization tools, right? They've got a full-blown advertising platform that you can become a part of, take a look at, and see, if there's an advertiser who might want to talk to your audience. A full-blown patron program, all right? So where your listeners can support you directly. And the ability to designate, special episodes as a premium episode as well. So all those tools are available right there as part of Podbean as well. So between the sharing, and I omitted YouTube and Tumblr, WordPress, that's all available right through Podbean. It's super robust and tons of great things that really you're going to need if you want to take your show to a next level or you're thinking about starting a show. So check out Podbean. Go to podbean.com/TPD. It'll give you more information about what I'm talking about and also allow you to get your first month for free. So once again, my thanks to Podbean for their continual support of the Podcast Digest. Now, back to my conversation with Al. What's funny is you mentioned that this book you had started on, and this may not be relevant, but again, in my listen back to our conversation from a couple years ago, right at the end, you told me that you and one of the producers from CIR were working on a crazy pitch, and you had no idea if it would go anywhere, but you'd let me know if it did. I never heard anything from you, but this was 2 years ago we had that conversation. I wonder, are these the same thing or something similar?
No, I don't. I don't remember what pitch it was because I had like so many crazy pitches at the time. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
You did make mention another part in the conversation that there were several projects you were working on and that you were getting things off the ground on a couple things. I imagine it was probably right around that time that idea had started to ruminate. So.
It did, and also like I have like these three big audio dreams that at some point I want to do, but it's going to take money to actually pull those off. But I haven't heard anybody do anything like these things before, and so I know that may be what I was talking about. I would love to do these projects, but it takes money and takes time, and it's not. I mean, I think that one of them could definitely fit in with what we do at Reveal, but the thing with Reveal is that like doing a weekly show, you got to feed the beast, and so we'll see. We'll see what happens with those. But at some point, what I'll say about one of those ideas is that my first show, State of the Reunion, was all about understanding America. and I'm still even more curious about like what and who America is now. And so I still want to do those projects because I think that if I can do them, it will really help us understand America in a way that we currently don't.
On that note, let's change gears again to social media because it might just be me, but it seems in 2017, 18, from a social media standpoint, we hear a lot more from Al Letson than maybe prior. It seems like there's a lot more to be said, a lot more that
Mm-hmm.
you want to contribute to the conversation. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that also like I've kind of figured out like the social media place that like feels the best for me, which is mostly like Twitter. Um, Although I do a lot of stuff on Facebook as well, but mostly I concentrate on Twitter. I think that that's like a big part of like figuring out social media is a kind of finding the platform that really fits to what works best for you. Um, but yeah, like I think that we are in tricky times, and I have a lot of thoughts about all of that. And so yeah, like I tend to speak my mind and try to, but also I want to navigate the space in a way that has a lot of humility and also understanding of other people. So I try to really listen to what other people have to say. At the same time, state the facts and really speak to where we are as a country.
Are you ever worried when you decide to make some commentate? Social media has been a landmine, right, for a lot of people. And even if you delete something, it can get screenshotted and look what this person said. Especially being a public person producing, creative outlets in several different ways. Are you concerned at all about, stepping in something that you didn't intend to?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have like tweeted things that later on I thought I need to rethink what I said there for different reasons. I think that the one thing about like the way that I interact with social media is I'm never ashamed by what I write. Like I never, because I don't like think in a way where I'm demeaning other people. Um, but sometimes I can say something like at some point. I mean, one of the things that I have to constantly think about is that while I am a citizen, I'm also a journalist, and we have I don't want to say standards, but we have ideas about how journalists should express themselves. And so I think that sometimes, like I have maybe not done that. The two specific times I can think of that I've not done that in the best way. All that being said, I can't think of a tweet that I've put out there that I didn't like stand by and believe in, even though I felt like maybe it wasn't appropriate in that space. So yeah, like I'm aware and conscious of like what I tweet and how I tweet it. But also I think that when I look at like the whole of Twitter and the way a lot of people talk to each other, I think that that I try to be balanced and good to people as best I can.
And I think you are. I haven't ever seen any of those myself where I feel like you've stepped in it to use that term. But I just wonder, as being part of PRX, let's say, or CIR, or you know what I mean, like being part of these, do you feel like you carry more weight as a representative? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want it to cause a
Yeah.
kerfuffle over something because it may damage. Season 2 is finally here and it's going great. You know what I mean? Like, or is that kind of just something that isn't at the forefront of your mind?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, the thing is that, like, when you're the host of a show and there are, I don't know, CIR's probably got somewhere around 50 people that work here. When you're the host of the show and you are basically the representative, the public face of that show, like, yeah, it carries a lot of weight to think about, like, what you say. And also, like, it's not just the people at CIR, but it's also PRX. So yeah, like it's definitely a big responsibility. I don't ever want to be the cause that I don't ever want my colleagues to feel like like, damn, I do all this work and here comes Al like just with a wrecking ball at it. So yeah, there
Right.
definitely is a responsibility to it.
I'm just thinking about all the ESPN Jamel Hill stuff and how that all went so ridiculous in terms of, personal opinions out in social media and what have you, and all that mess.
And also where we are as a country, where everything gets instantly politicized. You know.
Right. And I wonder too, when you contribute your thoughts and observations and criticisms and what have you when you speak about various different topics on social media, it makes me wonder too, and maybe this is a lot of wishful thinking on my part, because if this were to ever happen, I would be in line to chip in. But it almost makes me wonder if you might not have buried in the back of your mind somewhere, Al, a political thought in terms of a greater role other than journalist and commentator.
No,
Because I'd help.
sir.
I'd help out with the posters, Al. I really would. I think it would
Yeah,
be awesome.
no, I
Never thought
appreciate it,
about it,
my
huh?
friend. I appreciate it, my friend, but like, absolutely not. No,
I can't
no,
be the first
no.
person who's ever said that to you, though.
No, people have. There's been a few people
Yeah.
that said it, and I usually do the same thing. I laugh because I know, there's no way in the world I would be a good politician. Um, and also, you know, I think that politics in America and maybe all over the world, I don't know, but I think that it's broken right now. And I think if you want to make change in that political process, you can be more effective outside of it. So I think that, like, when you look at the work that CIR has done and watched how we've tried to shift the conversation. So, like, one of the great reporters here, or two of the great reporters here at CIR, Aaron Glantz and Emmanuel Martinez, did this huge investigation on redlining, and they specifically talked about like Philadelphia. And now, like, Pennsylvania and Philadelphia are looking to fix and change the policies there that have enabled it. Um, I feel like that is like such a big deal and such a great thing to be a part of, that like it moves and shifts the political landscape in a way that maybe like just being like a single politician trying to get people to vote on certain bills, maybe you don't have as much ability to shift the conversation. So no, I think where I'm at now is what I want to do.
In an ideal world, though, right? If we were to ignore the reality for a minute, in an ideal world, those with great ideas and great thoughts and original contributions to it, shouldn't those be the ones involved in politics? Do you ever lament the fact that it has become nothing but a whole jumble of personal attacks and fundraising and the sides of the political world that just are garbage and terrible? But shouldn't it be our kind of best people in there making the decisions, designing the future?
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with that. I think, but I think that that's what I was getting at when I said, that the political system is broken.
Yeah.
Because,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I think that that's the whole thing, is that the people that you want to be making those decisions. I think that people get into politics, and I believe that most of them get in for all the right reasons. And I think that once you get in the system, you see that the system doesn't work the way the average Joe thinks it does. And then you have to play the game, and then you have to get into the, running around so that you can actually, running around juggling stuff so that you can actually get reelected. And it's not like you're actually moving things forward because you're so concentrating on staying in, because if you stay in, you could do blah, blah, blah. So it's like this cycle, man. It's a cycle that I definitely don't want to be a part of.
Yeah. Understood. I figured I'd ask. I
Yeah,
knew it was
man.
wishful thinking, but I bet some other longtime outlets and listeners and followers have wondered the same thing, I imagine. So, all right, couple last quick things for you, Al, before I
Sure.
let you go. Upcoming projects, anything you can talk about? I mean, I know you're neck deep right now in all things Errthang and Reveal, but anything on the horizon you are thinking about?
Yes. Couple things on the horizon. Well, first of all, like, finishing Errthang season 2. Season 3, I have some great ideas for that I've scribbled down that I'm excited to figure out. Who knows how long those will take? So yeah, that Reveal's got some good stuff.
2 years.
Let's give me about 7 months. 7 months. 7 months, I think, is doable.
I'm hoping for the fall, but I'm expecting 2 years out.
I totally fair, Dad. I'll just say my goal.
I just don't want to be let down again.
No, I'm going to give you some realistic expectations. I would say January 2019, new season.
Okay, I can deal with that.
January.
I can deal with that.
January.
Especially if you guys do the inter-season convos with you and Willie. If that becomes a real thing, I could definitely wait.
Yeah, okay. All right. There we go. We can talk about that. Reveal's got some good stuff cooking that I can't talk about, but I'm pretty excited for. I don't know, since you and I talked, I was a part of DC Comics writers. DC Comics had like a class of writers that they taught how to write comics the DC comic way. And so yeah, I'm just pitching to DC Comics. I'm working on my own individual comic stuff. So yeah, like there's like I have this one pitch in to a couple companies now, and if it doesn't get picked up, I'm probably just going to go ahead and write it as a novel. So yeah, so I've already started writing it as a novel. I just really would love for it to be a graphic novel because the story is so visual. So my goal, one way or the other, is by early 2019 to have completed my book, whether it's a graphic novel or an actual novel. So those are the big things. Those are the big things that I'm thinking about right now.
I'm so focused on audio all the time. I always forget about your writing side. I know we talked a little bit about the theater in our previous conversation. We never got to the comic book stuff, but it just reminded me. And I don't think I've heard you. I'm sure in social media you've done this, but and I know we're running out of time. But a minute or two, your thoughts on the success of Black Panther?
Oh man, I went to the theater. I took my kids. My kids and I have a family tradition. Like if it's a superhero movie, we all go see it together. Right. And so we all went, and at the end of it, I sat in the theater and I just tried not to cry, because I have been a comic book fan. I mean, comic books taught me how to read. Dyslexic, and I really took huge leaps and bounds in my reading comprehension when I started reading comic books. And I mean, you just don't recognize as a black person in America, especially as a quote unquote fanboy in America, like the compromises you make, that like most of your heroes don't look like you. And you know, you just think, whatever, that's fine. But then when you see a hero that looks like you, that like has this origin that's relatable to you, yeah, you just realize how long you've been waiting for it. And so for me, to see it done so well and so beautifully, personally, it really, you know, it really touched me. And yeah, I mean, the success of the movie, like, first of all, like, Ryan Coogler is like an amazing director. Chadwick is an amazing actor, and the entire staff. I mean, they were ridiculously smart in the story they told and the group of people that they got to work on it. But also, like, I just feel like the most beautiful thing about it is that, like, it was really telling people that the world is ready for these type of stories. I mean, prior to the Black Panther, you know, everyone talked about how black films just won't sell overseas. And this one showed that, like, it will, you know?
Yeah, no doubt about that. What are we, the highest grossing superhero movie of all time now, yes? I think recently it crossed that?
Yeah, exactly, which is, I mean, I was even surprised, but I thought that Black Panther was going to be good. I was surprised at how good it was. It just, you know, blew away all my expectations and sets a really high bar for any superhero now. You know, I thought the high bar, for me, like, the high bar was the second Batman movie that Christopher Nolan did. I thought that was just, what was it, The Dark Knight? I thought that was, right, like, no one was going to top that as far as a superhero movie. And I think Black Panther actually did it. I mean, like, it's stunning what they did. So I'm excited about the future.
I tell you, I side note on that, I got in a long conversation with somebody the other day and I was postulating that I believe Michael B. Jordan at this point is now this generation's Denzel or Morgan Freeman. I think the torch is slowly being passed. He is amazing. Yeah. I am such a fan of his work.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, from his time on from Parenthood to Creed to Black Panther. I mean, the list goes on and on. I think he's going to be the next big thing. So
he's phenomenal. He's phenomenal.
Well, I had to take that little side route there. I hadn't heard you speak much about it. Maybe I missed it. Well, I guess your movie commentary wouldn't show up on Reveal.
Yeah, unfortunately. Like the thing is that for me, like I had plenty of thoughts about it, but there were so many people who wrote about it that I just felt like, I'm the type of guy that like I want to say stuff when, when I feel like, okay, so no one is saying this, just let me say it. But I felt like everybody's saying things, so give people right, exactly. Give people who maybe don't have the spotlight a chance to say something. So.
Well, whenever you do, I know I always like to hear it. I know a lot of other folks do. 2 years after our first conversation, Al, I'm still a huge fan of your work. I think you're one of the greatest guys in this. We met in person very briefly in Chicago in the summer of 2016, and you were super kind, and we shared a beverage, and it was you had yours, I had mine. We didn't share the same beverage, folks, but but Al, thank you so much for catching up with me again. Errthang Season 2 is out now, folks. Al is tweaking it as we speak. So if folks want to follow you or check out Errthang, how can they do that, Al?
So to follow me, you can find me on Twitter. That's at Al_Letson. There's also at Errthang, ERRTHANG on Twitter. And then you can go to Radiotopia Showcase and find the new episodes. So the new episode that just came out, episode 2, is about me becoming involved in a protest in Berkeley, and I did some crazy stuff. And so this is the story behind all of that. So I like it. I hope the audience will.
Yeah, I think it's our first Reveal Errthang crossover, because you did touch on that a little bit on Reveal.
Yep. Yeah. And next episode is also another Errthang Reveal crossover. So good stuff.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, because I think you touched on this in season 1, right? Episode 3, the description on the PRX blog just talks about fatherhood. Was it season 1 of Errthang you went into, or was it one of your talks with Moth? I've heard you talk about this before somewhere.
Yeah, well, I tend to talk about fatherhood a lot, but the one that I'm doing now, or excuse me, episode 3 is about it in way back in, I think, November of 2017. Was it November? When did Trump get elected? He got elected in November of 2017, right?
2,000 years ago, Al.
Yeah, right? That's so long ago. Oh, my God. So, way back when, in a whole other universe. Way back when, I interviewed Richard Spencer, the nation's premier white supremacist. And in that conversation with Richard Spencer, I talked about how I have 4 kids, and one of them is a white son. He's not biracial; he's white, and how much all of that like really is opposed to his beliefs on race. And so what I did with episode 3 is really about me and my son's relationship and how that came to be.
Maybe that's where I heard you go into it, because I heard that Richard Spencer interview, if I remember correctly. I think you did it inside a Reveal episode, and then you released it as a standalone episode, or there's 2 parts or something like that. Yeah,
exactly.
I listened to it a couple of times. Yeah, Yeah, that must be it. I know I've heard you talk about your son before, in those concerns. So I'm interested. What is Errthang on? Is it 2 weeks? Every 2 weeks?
No, every week. Every week.
Every week. See, it just has felt like 2 weeks. See, in the Trump era, everything feels longer, right? The last week has felt like 2. So,
or shorter. It's one or the other. Like either everything feels so much longer, or oh my God, that happened again. You know, so it's like that, right? Yeah,
it's crazy. Well, he probably won't be back to California again anyways. He did his one visit, so, you guys can,
Who knows?
He won't come back to Wall Shop again for a while, hopefully. So.
Yeah.
All right, Al, thank you so much again for taking the time. Folks, links are in the show notes. As always, check out all the great stuff that Al does. One of my favorite people in audio. So thanks again, Al.
Thanks, buddy. Take care.
All right, folks, that'll do it for episode 151 of the Podcast Digest. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Al Letson from Errthang and Reveal. Errthang is an amazing show, guys. There are 2 episodes out so far of season 2, and it has been awesome. I'm telling you, episode 1 of season 2, I don't know that I've laughed as hard as I did during that show to any podcast I've listened to. And that's a strong statement. I've listened to a lot of comedy shows, but definitely go check out Errthang. And if you aren't listening to Reveal, oh man, you're really missing out. Not only is it an amazing show to stay subscribed to, but to go back through the back catalog and hear some of those conversations that Al had. He mentioned the one with Richard Spencer, and it's not just conversations, it's topics. The Center for Investigative Reporting and the research team and the reporters there do some amazing investigative journalism. So that's it for this month's episode, folks. I hope to be back again soon. Like I said, this was my April show. There will be a May show, hopefully, but I may be able to surprise you before then. We'll see what happens. If you like the Podcast Digest, please tell a friend. Follow it at Pod Digest on Twitter and Facebook. Until next time, my name is Dan Lizette for the Podcast Digest.
Thank you for listening to the Podcast Digest. You can follow the show on Twitter at Pod Digest. Like the show on Facebook at facebook.com/the Podcast Digest. Email the show feedback at thepodcastdigest@gmail.com. And you can find all the previous episodes and exclusive blog entries at the show's website, thepodcastdigest.info.